Hey guys, John Lemme here, the founder of Conservative Business Journal and the host of the CBJ Real News Podcast Show. And I'm excited to bring to you an incredible guest this evening. As you know, all of our guests are handpicked to bring real, true, conservative, patriotic American values to you and for you to get educated and learn. Make sure you share all these episodes. And before I bring on Sheriff Richard Mack, I want to read a little bit about his background. I believe it's very important as you're going to hear some of his story, which is just tremendous. Author, speaker, and former Sheriff Richard Mack has served in a wide variety of roles over the course of his nearly 20-year career in law enforcement, which began in Provo, Utah. After 11 years at Provo PD Police Department, Mack decided to return to his childhood turf in Arizona and run for Graham County Sheriff. His campaign took off and he was elected in 1988. During his time, I'll pay attention, everybody, this is very important. Federal officers informed the sheriffs of the state that they would be required to enforce the so-called Brady Bill and run background checks at their expense under the law. Now, this is what's powerful. In 1994, Mack and 6 other sheriffs from across the country challenged the constitutionality of the Brady Bill and ultimately fought all the way to the United States Supreme Court, where they won a monumental decision for freedom. 3 years later, in a landmark 5-4 split decision based on the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution, which all of you know, I love the Constitution, where they won a monumental decision for freedom. 3 years later, once again, in a landmark 5-4 split decision based on the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution, Mack won his case. And Sheriff Richard Mack, welcome to the CBG Real News Podcast Show. And I'm excited for you to unleash about what's going on in America, the lawlessness, and how you're taking a role to empower sheriffs to do their job and so forth.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. And every time somebody reads something about the Supreme Court case that I started back in 1994, it just becomes more and more miraculous the older I get, and the more historic it becomes, because it's the only time in American history where a sheriff led the way in suing the federal government, and this was the Clinton administration, no less, and taking it all the way to the Supreme Court and winning. It's just absolutely unheard of. It's never happened before. It's never happened since. And I'm very proud of what we accomplished there.
And, share with everyone too, Sheriff Mack, how that began for you, where you realize that this Constitution is a law of the land. And I say it all the time, every time this mass stuff and all this stuff going on with the mandates and the fake stuff, I literally carry this. I give these out at my events, pocket ones. I take it out of my pocket and go, just show me in here where it says in the Constitution, this is the law of the land, correct? Explain to everyone what this means and why this is very powerful. And the sheriff is the most powerful elected official.
Well, some people complain about my thesis that the sheriff is the supreme law of the land. And they say, well, why doesn't the U.S. Constitution say that then? Well, there's no reason why the Constitution, the federal United States Constitution, would talk about the local sheriff. That's not the job or the mission of the U.S. Constitution. But it does talk about every public official. In Article 6, it requires every single member of all 3 branches of government, be it state, local, or federal, to swear an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And that really is the answer to your question. We all have a lawful and moral and spiritual obligation to perpetuate the U.S. Constitution and thereby protect the God-given natural rights that we were all born with when we became Americans in the first place. So our duty is to protect liberty and to make sure that the civil rights of every citizen are being protected in the execution of our governmental jobs.
And that's a big statement, especially since I know you were actually awarded by Gun Owners of America as a defender of the Second Amendment Award. You will also receive the NRA Law Officer of the Year, inducted into the NRA Hall of Fame. And I waited to share that with you during specific questions I have for you before we move into what you're now very proud of, what you're doing, a nationwide movement with the CSPOA. The Second Amendment. I always say this. I spoke at a local event here last night, and I said, the only part of the Constitution that the radical left, the communists, haven't blurred so far is the Second Amendment. Can you unpack the meaning of the Second Amendment, the power of it? Because you're obviously a nation leading expert on it, please.
Well, I've written a couple of books about the Second Amendment. The first one was actually my first book, and it was pursuant to my lawsuit against the Clinton administration to protect the rights of the people to keep and bear arms. It was a Second Amendment issue, but we went through the 10th Amendment because, quite honestly, I had no standing on the Second Amendment because law enforcement, all of us, were exempt from the Brady Bill background check requirements. So I guess Washington, D.C. wanted us to be kind of part of their elitism and join the Washington, D.C. group. And, oh, well, sheriffs, if you do what we tell you here, we'll let you be part of the in crowd with Washington, D.C. and we'll make you exempt from all the laws that everybody else has to obey. And the whole thing is ridiculous, though, because you have to know and understand the intent of the founding fathers when they promulgated the Second Amendment in the first place. What was the reason that the founding fathers put the Second Amendment in the Bill of Rights? Now, we had the Constitution, and then 2 years later, some of the founders came to Madison and said, we made a mistake. And Madison got very defensive about it, said, no, we didn't. It's perfect. Said, wait a minute. Does it contain a Declaration of Rights? A la Magna Carta way back in 1215. And they've had them before. The Declaration of Rights of Englishmen of 1650 was part of the history too that the founding fathers leaned on. Most of the rights mentioned in the Bill of Rights were all discussed in Old Anglo-Saxon and English law. So this was nothing new. A lot of this was nothing new. So the founders are trying to make sure that liberty for the people is protected. And that's why in Amendment 5, there's in Amendment 1, there's 5 very important principles and tenets of liberty. And they name all 5 of those: religion, speech, the press, the right to peaceably assemble, and the right to file grievances against government.
I mean, everything is
number one.
Everything the left is after, which you just said, those
Correct.
5 bullet points,
right,
is everything they want to erase. Everyone, as you know, why we're bringing you the best of the best. Sheriff Richard Mack is an expert. Listen to what he just said. Those 5 points. I mean, I'm banned on YouTube for life, banned on LinkedIn, banned on TikTok, shadow banned. We have a huge email list and a huge podcast platform from all the podcast platforms. But freedom of the press, freedom of speech. I mean, it's freedom of assembly, closing church down, abortion clinics open. Then you can't file a grievance to the government. You shouldn't wear a mask around a kid. I mean,
you need to call it what it really was. It's a diaper.
That's right, face diaper. That's right, dirty
you
face
put your
diaper.
diapers on your faces.
Right.
But really, it only takes about 5 minutes to study and research what the intent of the founding fathers was. And the intent on the Second Amendment was simply to guarantee liberty, to protect liberty. And if the American people are disarmed, it will be impossible for us to have the final say in our government. And when government becomes tyrannical and destructive of these ends, as mentioned in the Declaration of Independence, it is the right of the people, it is the duty of the people to throw off such government. So it guarantees us our right to rebel and to remain in charge. If we are disarmed and if the government disarms us, then that is exactly the opposite of what the Second Amendment was guaranteed to protect. We are in charge. We are in charge, and this is our government.
Even as you're sharing that right now, I know everyone's, as it's going through my heart, my spirit, listen to this. It's amazing to protect our liberty, protect our freedom right now. Obviously, everything going on in America right now, you know, we believe in a Second Amendment. My wife's the producer here tonight. We always say she's got a Glock book. She's got the pocketbook with a Glock in it. And I'm very pro Second Amendment, and I believe that's the final drawing line for people. You know, obviously, you know better than anyone. Venezuela, Cuba, all these countries that got taken over, they got rid of the guns. And with Hitler and Germany, they manipulate people to give up their guns so they can go in and take it away from them. And it's so important for all of you listening to this. That Second Amendment, you have to understand the depth of it. So when it's interesting what you said about that, Sheriff Mack, about protect our freedoms, protect our liberties. I mean, what's going through your mind as an expert for many, many years in the industry, in the field of law enforcement and protecting people's freedoms? And obviously you as a sheriff, I know what you're doing now is really empowering sheriffs to stand up against the tyranny of some governors and some Democratic counties around the country. Kind of tell everyone how this evolved, how the CSPO evolved, which stands for Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. I think that's a great. I think God really used you in your life, utilize your talents, and use you for this point now to empower sheriffs around the country.
Well, we offer a constitutional training for primarily law enforcement officials and even more specifically sheriffs. But we'll take anybody. We'll take highway patrolmen. We'll take federal agents. We'll take police officers, deputies, sheriffs, county commissioners, anybody that's in government, and city councils, chiefs of police. We want them all on board, and we've had them all part of our training. So you need to understand the title of the training, the Constitution for Law Enforcement. And the question that we answer primarily in the training that we provide is, what is the law enforcement officer's role in our American Republic? What do we do? Just write tickets, go after drug dealers, set up DUI checkpoints, which most of the time are unconstitutional, by the way. But what's our job? What is the intended role and purpose of law enforcement in our constitutional republic? Wow. And I've even written a little book about that before I even started most of these classes. Way back in 1999, I wrote a little booklet, pamphlet, kind of a la Thomas Paine, because it's only 30 pages long, but it's called The Proper Role of Law Enforcement. What is the proper role of law enforcement? And again, I'll say this: is it just to be out there writing tickets and gouging the American citizen? And I will tell you that my view of traffic tickets is just this: it's taxation through citation. And where does true service and compassion and defense of liberty come in to the average patrol officer's job and duty as a protector of the people? So when we understand our role, that our duty is to protect liberty and defend the rights of the people, then we will get back to the proper role of law enforcement.
So let me ask you this question. Obviously, you hear my accent. I'm born and raised in New York. I'm in Florida, like now 90% of New York's in Florida. But as I travel the entire country, and we have Governor DeSantis here, we have great sheriffs here, we have great law enforcement. I'm one of my greatest friends here in Florida, a member of the West Palm Beach Police Department. And what's going through your heart and mind, Sheriff Mack, when you look at these police officers enforcing mask mandates, arresting people for not wearing a mask? I mean, how do you? And I was looking forward to ask you that question tonight, because I tell the guys, leave the job, move to under a good sheriff, under a good mayor. I mean, what do these guys do and gals do? I mean, it's a very difficult situation. I mean, we published an article on a conservative business journal that went viral, that somebody in New York, they were arresting people. Was it Olive Garden? They were arresting people in Olive Garden for not having vaccine passports, which is another whole show in itself. And then within a mile, the homeless person pushed the person on trucks and everything going on. So how do you respond? And what's going through? Do you sleep these days with all that's going on?
You know what? I don't sleep very much. And I'm constantly brooding about what's going on in our country. And when I found out that one of your Florida sheriffs, Sheriff Cronister, actually arrested Pastor Rodney Howard Brown in the Tampa Bay area for merely conducting church, And then this sheriff, so-called sheriff, violating the law and violating the purpose for which he was put into office, bragged about it at a press conference. He literally held a press conference to tell the world how he made 2 misdemeanor arrests on a pastor. I've never seen it where somebody held a press conference to announce the wonderful job they did, to pat themselves on the back about how they arrested a pastor for misdemeanors. And especially when the pastor did nothing wrong.
Okay.
And the real criminal act was from Sheriff Chronister. And maybe Sheriff Chronister is a good man. I don't know. But I would like to invite him to our training so that he can learn what his job really is. Because we are here to protect the pastors from anyone trying to stop them from the exercise of freedom of religion.
Yeah, and I'm actually good friends with Pastor Rodney Howard Brown. I had him on my show, and we talked about that, about when he got arrested. And he voluntarily went in, and he actually had a video of them coming to his home and so forth, and it's amazing. And there was also another sheriff. I mean,
he wasn't the only one that got arrested for that, and there's plenty more in Australia and Canada. And you would think that the rest of the churches in the world would be coming out unitedly, assailing anyone in the world arresting a pastor for merely having church service.
So when you say you train a sheriff, like I want to put your organization, the website up there now. It is. You can learn more at CSPOA.org. Share everyone. So when you say you train a sheriff voluntarily comes in your training, say, look, Sheriff Mack, train me on what my constitutional right is because they're an elected official. We elect our sheriffs. I mean,
correct.
So
there's 3 states that don't have sheriffs. And Alaska and Hawaii, when they came into the Union in 1959, never established sheriffs in state or local governments.
Wow.
Huge mistake. And then even worse than that, Connecticut used to have them, but they voted the office out over about 22 years ago.
Well, I never knew that. Wow.
There's no sheriffs in Connecticut, and 3 or 4 other states have reduced the sheriff to being a paper server.
But isn't Connecticut the Constitution state?
Yeah, can you believe it? Delaware.
That's because I'm from old New York and their license plate. The Constitution state, it's Connecticut.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No sheriff.
It's crazy. But let's just get this out right now. Let's make sure everybody knows and understands this. The sheriff is the top executive of every county. And actually, that's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. The sheriff was the first law enforcement officer in America. He precedes our country. He's way back in colonial times. And that's the reason is because the sheriff goes back 1,000 years in old Anglo-Saxon English law. And it used to be that he was the reeve of the shire, and then in the shire reeve, and then the sheriff. And that's where it evolved from that.
Oh, wow.
And it goes back over 1,000 years. And it has remained the same. The sheriff is the ultimate protector of the people within his jurisdiction. And the reason why the sheriff is the most powerful position is he reports only to the power source, and that's we the people. We the people choose our sheriffs. There's a few places where they've started to appoint the sheriffs, but 90% of the sheriffs in this country, maybe even more, are elected and appointed by the people, and the sheriff reports only to them. He doesn't report to the county manager, the county commissioners, county attorney, none of that. He doesn't report to a council. He reports only to the people. We are his only boss. And that's a very unique situation, but it's also a powerful demonstration as to what makes a republic. A republic is that the people choose. The people are in charge. And ours is even more powerful than that because it's surrounded by a rule book called the Constitution. So we are a constitutional republic, and the sheriff is a huge cog in that wheel.
Now we have a sheriff down here in big Polk County. He's
Brady
he's
Judd.
pretty strong. That's what Ginny's saying. I see Ginny's making a comment.
Yeah.
That's what's she's one of our awesome followers, listeners, and strong Christian constitutionist warrior. And she goes, "Love me some Sheriff Grady Judd."
Yeah.
I mean, so how come every sheriff's not like that?
It makes them look bad, so they get jealous and they get mad right then. and what I would tell some of these lazy sheriffs that really don't know their job is that you don't need Grady Judd's help to look bad. You can do that all on your own. So don't blame him and don't blame me, because some of these sheriffs just really are too afraid to find out what their job really is. And then sometimes after that, they're too afraid to do it. And so a lot of them want to blame me or, use me as an excuse. Oh, Sheriff Mack says some stupid things, or he's radical and he's an extremist. So I don't keep my oath of office because Sheriff Mack is radical.
Yeah.
How about just doing it on your own and finding out what your job really is and leave me out of it? I don't have to be part of this. I would love it that sheriffs would do their own training and their own education and their own research and really discover what the office of sheriff is all about. I had breakfast this morning with a sheriff who did that. He read my stuff. He's heard about my lawsuit. He started looking into it, and he now is a very strong constitutional sheriff. He's never had our training. He wants to go to it now, but he studied this and discovered it on his own. And to me, that's the best conversion you can have.
So when you say studied it, and what's exciting too is I had Sheriff Joe. You might know this very mellow Sheriff Joe out of Maricopa County.
Very good friend of mine, and he's nothing but mellow.
Oh, I know. It was a very difficult interview. I was pulling stuff out of Sheriff Joe. Yeah. I interviewed him 6 months before the election, and you know what his opinion was? The election was going to be stolen, obviously because of him in Maricopa County in Arizona. Interesting, Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe, and he had his tents out, which was great for the illegal aliens, which is great. We love Sheriff Joe. So
I always get after Joe about that. He wrote a book called The Toughest Sheriff in America.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I told him, because we're good friends, that I won't sue him for claiming that he's the toughest sheriff in America. And I'll tell you, well, he even would, every time I brought that up, he'd go, well, I guess you suppose you're the toughest sheriff in America. I said, of course, it's immaterial. And I said, let me ask you. So I'll ask you the same thing, John. Sheriff Joe took on the prostitutes, the street gangs, the drug cartels, and the illegal aliens. I took on the Clintons.
I was going to say that. I knew that. I was going to fill the blank in.
I took on the Clintons. Now tell me which one's the toughest.
That's right. And tell him in the Constitution case, Sheriff Mack, number 5 was Judge Scalia's, correct? There was the 5th.
Yeah, Scalia wrote the decision.
Yeah. Tell everyone about that, and then we'll move more into the CSPO.
Wait, I'm getting a copy highlighted version of the case. This is it right here.
Supreme Court case is for state sovereignty. Wow.
Now this is on our website, and if you go to shop, it makes it look like it's really big, because the picture is big. But this fits in your pocket. Okay, it's a pocket-sized review of the Supreme Court decision. Now you need to understand something here. This is the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of America. I kid you not. And every American should have a copy of this. You can get like 3 of them for $5. They're really cheap.
And that's available at your website, CSPOA.org, CSPOA.org.
We have people that order hundreds of them at a time, and they want to get these out. After people read this, they go, man, I gotta get a bunch of those. And they order cases of them. And let me tell you, we did 2 weeks ago, we did the Reawaken tour with General Flynn and Clay Clark in Phoenix. And so I was one of the speakers over there, and it was about an hour from my house because I live in the southeast part of Maricopa County,
Well,
which is the greater Phoenix area.
Yeah, because you're the toughest. You're the toughest sheriff in Arizona.
Well, yeah. Well, I used to be. Yeah. And so, anyway, this case is beyond anything I ever imagined. Justice Scalia went much broader, much farther, much further than I ever would have dreamed. And in fact, he quoted the first thing that I really like in this. He quoted a earlier decision from the Supreme Court, New York versus U.S. back in 1992, and he said this: "We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction."
Interesting.
Now, if the states are not subject to federal direction, then why do we keep going along and bowing down to the federal government, acting like they're our boss?
That's right.
They're not. And usually and the answer to that question is usually because the federal government knows they're not the boss. So they start putting out all these little bribes called federal grants. And that's where they really get the influence to run everything nationwide, because they offer all these bribes to local agencies and local departments.
I mean, it's amazing when you went up against the Clintons. I mean, that case, guys, make sure you visit CSPOA.org, CSPOA.org, and learn their mission. You have a great 3-minute.
If you'd ever bought any book in your life, you should be buying that cheap little book.
Because
it's amazing.
I mean, it's so relevant today. I mean, you have people. We live in Palm Beach County, West Palm Beach, Florida. It blows my mind. People wearing masks, the face diapers, and I go crazy about the masks. I mean, that's one thing you said. I go nuts about the diapers. And in Florida, I mean, even under DeSantis, people are wearing masks, and we travel a lot. We're blessed to be around the country speaking, and you see people. You land in some of these states, they think I'm in a different country. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, you know, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you that a mask, that little blue paper cloth thing, I don't even know what it's made of. It's really weird. But people actually believe that flimsy diaper actually keeps a COVID germ from coming out to somebody else.
Oh, yeah.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
No,
because, okay, well, let's analyze it. Okay, so it's across your nose and mouth. Are you still able to breathe? Well, obviously you can breathe, or you would die. You would suffocate. It's not a balloon. It's not a piece of plastic that fills up and then you deposit it somewhere in a safe location when you're done. It obviously doesn't do that, does it? No. So what is it doing? Well, it actually makes social distancing much more dangerous. Because what it does is it stops all your air right here, and then the next person that walks through there gets all of your germs.
Oh yeah, no, it's a total recipe. Like they just shut down here.
It is a recipe for destruction and for disease.
I mean,
and so not only is it not protecting you, because that mask still brings in air that you're breathing, it's bringing it in, so you're still getting other air, and then all of it just collects right around you because it doesn't go out and disseminate normally. And there it is. And anybody who says that flimsy mask protects you is totally ignorant or a liar. And
you mean I
guess
like
I just
Arizona?
described Fauci, didn't I?
Oh yeah, no, Fauci's. I mean, I go nuts about the stuff. Yeah. I mean, I did a message last night. I spoke with a big organization here, and I did a message called "Just We the People Are Pissed," because I found out yesterday was when Biden shuts down the monoclonal antibody sites here in Florida, and then they give out the free COVID. I did a whole test. I did a whole show on this with one of my doctors, Dr. Betsy, about how horrible this COVID crap test is. But let's stay on track, or else we can go on for an hour about this junk. This is obviously all from the radical left, all a communist move. It's all a recipe. The testing, the sites being shut, because they're going after, better than anybody. They're going after DeSantis. They're going to get DeSantis.
Oh yeah, of course. Well,
we have to keep the state red. And
as soon as he got listed as a viable candidate for president, they started going after him big time, of course.
Yeah, and that's why they. I mean, they literally committing murder here in Florida, where they shut down those sites. I had a doctor, Dr. Krista, who speaks. She's been on my show many times. She wrote a book about Big Pharma 4 years ago, about how to destroy Big Pharma, and she must have sent close to 500 of her patients in Broward County, another great county like Maricopa County, Broward County in Florida, and she had close to 500 patients went there. Not one ever went in the hospital, and now those centers are all shut down. But let's go back to. I want to show this real quick, and then we'll ask a few more questions. I want to make sure you guys visit the sheriff's site. I want to make sure you guys go to right here. You'll see become the part of the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Learn more at CSPOA.org.
And everybody, every citizen, everybody listening to the show today, or whenever you do listen to this, everybody, every citizen can become a member of the CSPOA posse, and we beg you to do that. So you become part of the solution. The CSPOA provides a peaceful, effective, and immediate solution to stopping masks, stopping vaccine passports, stopping the quarantine camps, and protecting liberty. And it would not matter one iota if even if the mask did work, even if the diaper did provide safety and health for us all, even if the vaccine was safe and effective, which it is not, but even if it were, it is still my choice. And no one on the face of this planet has the authorization or the prerogative to force me to take that damnable vaccine. And that's the job of the sheriff to protect my right to choose for myself. And whether he likes it or not, no matter what he thinks or believes, he could be vaccinated and have all his family vaccinated with all the boosters and everything else. Hooray for him. It is still my choice, and no one in government, not my neighbors, not my government, no one has the authority to make that choice for me, or to force that choice down my throat, or to arrest me for not going along. And that we're even talking about vaccine papers before you can go anywhere in the country, comrade. Are you totally out of your mind? This is America, not Nazi Germany. And I want to ask every Democrat of color and every Democrat in this country, what did you do with civil rights? If they were forcing this on blacks under Martin Luther King, would you guys not be screaming bloody murder? What in the world are you thinking that this would be okay for everyone? Because it's okay if you're just abusing everyone. This is utterly the antithesis of the American dream and of the American promise that we all get to run our own lives and choose our own direction.
I mean, it's amazing. I'm just getting fired up listening to you, and I get so excited about it. That's why we have our conservativemarketplace.com. All of my listeners know that's where we have 38 conservative vendors, and I won't go through a whole commercial break with Sheriff. I want to maximize Sheriff's time. All of you guys know we have our conservativemarketplace.com. And one of our greatest product we have, Sheriff Mack, that's printed here. All of my books, everything we market is all printed by a local printer here. And we came out with the CDC vaccination cards we give out. and the CDC says Center for Disease Creation and Fake Pandemics in America vaccination card asterisk. See back of card. And it says, this jab is not in the United States Constitution. I'll never be injected with this poison experimental drug. Let's go, Brandon vaccination card. And we say in the bottom, we say mandatory vaccinations and masks are a joke, just like this vaccination card. And people have taken these around the country and they've sent them out. They've given out everywhere. And when I gave these out last night, when I was there as a free gift, and people just love them. America's come to the point where it really is we the people. I mean, it's everyone listening. This is what. And so I was so excited we're able to coordinate our schedules to have you on our show. Make sure you guys share this, like, comment, send it out everywhere. Make sure you guys do follow us on Telegram at CBJ Real News. Follow us on Rumble at CBJ Real News and on Cloud Hub, which is phenomenal. We're getting no censorship there at all. CLOUTHUB, clouthub.com, CBJ Real News. And then download the podcast app on your smartphone, Google Play Store, Apple Store. You guys know, and you search out Conservative Business Journal and subscribe. It's free. All the episodes are under alphabetical order. You can go to Sheriff Joe, and his last name begins with A-A-P. How do you spell Arapaio?
Sheriff Arpaio, A-R-P-A-I-O.
So that's how it's on a search feature. ARP comes right up. So listen to Sheriff Joe, listen to Sheriff Mack, and see who's the toughest sheriff out there. And it comes up, and that's all in our episodes. And guys, this is the real news. Share these episodes. We had Pastor Rodney Howard Brown on that Sheriff Mack referenced earlier. That I had him right on after he got arrested for opening his church back in the beginning of the scandemic. So it's so important, guys, to get the real news out. And final question. We had some questions here, right, Christy? You said you had someone had a question for Sheriff.
Yes. Let's see here.
This one, but great show, Sheriff Mack. I appreciate your commitment. Here it is. Wisconsin just joined the Convention of States today. I think we have 16 now. The John Birch Society says it's not a good idea to do it. Why are they saying that? That's a question for you.
Absolutely, totally agree with John Birch Society on that. The promoters of the Constitutional Convention comes from Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, not Amendment 5, Article 5. And it's a legitimate constitutional process. No question about that. However, the danger of this is that no one, and these guys that promote it are kind of fudging the truth on that. Because once you get inside that convention, they can do anything they want. And they say, oh, no, we'll make a rule that they can't. They get to change the rules. They get to make up the rules however they want. Now, this is another thing that goes right in line with all of this. Who are going to be the delegates to go to that con? Who are they? They're going to be chosen by state legislatures or governors. So we're going to have mainstream rhino Republicans. They're not going to be constitutional conservatives at that convention.
That's right.
It's going to be mainstream Democrats, mainstream Republicans, and there will be a few here and there staunch conservative Republicans. Very few. Okay? And they will not be able to control or stop any of the subterfuge that might try to happen at that convention. There could be a runaway convention. This could go south. They could rewrite the entire Constitution. And the extreme left is supporting that con. It's way too dangerous. If you trust Democrats and Republicans to restore liberty at that con, by all means have it. But if you trust Democrats and Republicans with that precious jewel, you are a fool. And that's why the JBS and many of us constitutional patriots don't trust this. And the people that are pushing this, I really wonder about their motives.
And we didn't. This is the first time we've never talked before. We came on. We went back and forth with your team. It's great for sitting. We've never conversed about that before, right, Sheriff Mack?
That is correct.
And just all your listeners know. I mean, all my listeners and followers and subscribers know this. We've never had them at my events, right, Christy? No. Because I knew their motive, Sheriff Mack. I agree with you, and I'll say it. Their motives are wrong. Their motive is to rewrite this. There's no question. They sound great on top. But they, like you said, you get deep down in this. So I'm so glad you answered that question from your background, with decades as law enforcement and expert in that arena. It's tremendous. Phenomenal, right, Christy?
I think a lot of people are wondering that because it's very confusing to most people. Like Nick, he said, he's always wondered about that. It's a great question.
That's a great question. And I've had, because I do events, and I've obviously put on We the People Fight Back events, and I put on Keep Your State Red events, and I speak at all the conferences. I spoke at Clay's events, and I get these questions asked all the time. Why? Because my podcast show, I'm humbled to say, it's been around for years. I've had all the guests on, and I will not put the guys on my show because I'm not going to give them a platform to manipulate what I believe is the most important document that we rely on. I've taken this out many times, and people.
Yeah, and that's another thing. There's nothing wrong with the Bill of Rights.
That's right.
and there's nothing really wrong with the Constitution. The only thing I would have said is maybe they should have added a punishment for those who don't keep the Article 6 requirement to take an oath to the Constitution. There should be a punishment affixed. And maybe the founders thought that that would be treason because it's already in another part of the Constitution. But we don't need a new Constitution. We need to enforce the one that's there. So I don't understand the logic that, if we go write a new Bill of Rights, or if we go change the wording, then Congress will start following the Constitution. That is the most stupid logic I've ever heard. What are these people thinking? And that's why, because most of this is so obviously stupid, that we're starting to attach ulterior motives to these people trying to push this, because it's so obvious that this is a wrong thing to do.
Let me ask you one final question. Then I really respect your time, and there's so many comments coming up. I see in Rumble and Cloud Hub, there's just too many to read. We're live on a show. Everyone really respects your fire, your commitment, because they get so concerned about law enforcement. People get so scared of cops arresting people for no mask and vaccine passport. I mean, it's just insanity. What about the sheriff of LA County with the sheriff? What's the DA out there?
Sheriff Villanueva.
Yeah, I mean, he's
LA County.
What is he going to do with that crazy district attorney out there?
Well, he doesn't work for the district attorney, so so he can keep doing what he's doing. We're really proud of Sheriff Villanueva. We've never had a sheriff standing in liberty in Los Angeles County. So we're proud of him. I haven't talked to him yet. I've talked to his secretary a few times, and we've just let him know that if he needs any backup, if he needs us for anything, we're here to help him in any way. But we're proud and of what he's doing, and we thanked him for what he's doing. And if he needs us, give us a call.
Because he's a good example going against Newsom and the complete LA communist city there. I mean,
that's right. He is amazing miracle that this has ever happened, and we applaud Sheriff Villanueva for what he's doing.
And I believe that's going to encourage some other sheriffs to step up and step out. Any final words for our listeners and for the CBJ Real News Podcast Show audience?
Well, again, we're all about taking America back, county by county, one good sheriff at a time. This cannot happen without we the people. We invite all of you to join us in this holy cause of liberty. Become a member of our CSPOA Sheriff Posse at CSPOA.org and be part of the solution. This is immediate, this is effective, and this is peaceful.
It's powerful. Sheriff Richard Mack, thank you, my brother. I appreciate your heart, appreciate your fire. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep exposing them, and I'll take an audience survey. I'll put your podcast and Sheriff Joe's together and see who they rate.
Who they think the toughest sheriff is.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's actually I had him on my show when his book was released. That's when he was interviewed. Well, back it was August 20. I think it was August 2020. Then it was. Yeah, it was.
Maybe you need to put Sheriff Arpaio and I on the show together sometime.
Yes, that's right. That'd be good. That'd be good. Thank you, Sheriff Mack. I appreciate it. I know my dad's watching, who's 92, who's a vet, who's a military man, loves the country. He loves law enforcement. I did a whole episode with him just called Common Sense. He being 92 years young, seeing this nonsense going on, and he talks about law enforcement and back in the blue and respecting what you guys have done for years. And thank you so very much. It's awesome. And guys, make sure you like, share, comment, follow, and visit CSPOA.org. Grab a hold of his books. Those books are tremendous. There's more information. God bless you. Thank you, Sheriff Mack.
See you later.
Yeah, everyone.